I've been following the Mother Hips, oh jeez, pretty much since I was born basically.
From a song in my head, I'd forget if I didn't write down. I thought I saw someone standing in the shadow, so I ran to the kitchen and I turned on the light and found a sharp pencil.
Have you heard of the band called the Mother Hips? The Mother Hips met at the dorms in Chico State, and the original members were Tim Bloom, who played lead guitar, Greg Loriacono, who played rhythm guitar, Isaac Parsons played bass, and Mike Wolfchuk played drums. The current members of the Mother Hips are Tim Bloom, guitar vocals, Greg Loriacono, guitar vocals, Brian Rashap, bass vocals, John Hoofer, drums.
To the Mother Hips.
So I first got introduced to the Mother Hips by my dad Rick because he went to Chico State with them, and my first show was June, I think 10th, 2013 at Caesar Chavez Park, and it was super fun. My favorite Mother Hips song is White Falcon Fuzz.
Why?
Just how now the intro is just amazing.
We wanted to start a band because Greg and I would go to these parties in Chico when we were in college, and we would watch these bands play, and all these people would come in and be watching the band, and it looked like so much fun. It looked like that we wanted to be those guys. We just would look up at them and said, that's like, we got to be those guys. So that's like how it started. It kind of changed since then, but that was kind of how it started. We opened for all kinds of bands. Let's see, we opened for the ones that pop into my mind. The most like famous ones are like Wilco and Johnny Cash, and who else did we open for? The Blues Traveler. I don't think we ever opened for the Black Crowes, but we kind of almost did. So many other bands, I can't even think of them all.
So wait, you guys opened for Johnny Cash?
We got to open for Johnny Cash at the Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco. It was probably in about 1994, 1995. And it was incredible. Yeah, we got to meet him, and we didn't get to meet June Carter Cash, but they were together. They were both there. It was amazing. Well, Greg and I write a lot of this. I write more songs than Greg for sure. But when we first started, I wrote almost all of them, and then as it sort of Greg has started to contribute more and more as the years have gone on. So, and nowadays, Greg and I kind of collaborate on almost every song, which is pretty cool. The way the songwriting process works for me is that I'll come up with words kind of when I'm sleeping, or when I'm just laying in bed, or when I'm driving in my car. So sometimes I'll hear something that inspires me, or I'll read something in a book. I read a lot of books, and I'll jot them down, and then I'll sort of figure out how those can all go together, and I'll get the meter of those words, the way they work, will sort of dictate what chords I play and how I sing them. So usually it's the words first. I think my most favorite song that I've written, it's hard to say because I've written a lot of them, and you tend to favor the newer ones. But I think probably maybe the best song I've written is White Falcon Fuzz. I think it's probably the coolest song. Some of my favorite venues are probably, for the most part, the venues that are like famous, and they're famous because everyone likes them. But like the Fillmore is awesome, and the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, those are both great. The Casbah in San Diego is a really small, kind of like dirty rock club that I think is a cool. I like to play there. I don't like to go backstage there. But there's a place called Dan's Silverleaf, which is in Denton, Texas, and it's just, for some reason, it's just a really cool place. I love it. There's, I don't know, there's a bunch of them. I could go on and on, but the reason that I use, the why of that question is the way it sounds for the most part. Like if it feels good to play music on the stage, that's good. If the people that run it are nice, and those are the main things, I think. Typical show day for me, there's two different kinds. There's the kind where you start from home when you're already home, like today was for me, and then the other kind is when you're on tour already. So let's take the first example. First, wake up in the morning, put my pants on, one leg at a time. Just like the same way anyone would get ready for work. Take a shower, do your chores, get ready to go. Load up your guitars in the car, drive to the show, and sound check, sit around for a couple hours, eat dinner, play the show, break down the gear, and then put it back in the car, and then either drive home or drive to the hotel. And then, the next day, if you're in a hotel, the next day is much the same, except you don't have to do your chores. You can just wake up and go out to breakfast. The early days of playing shows in Chico, they were crazy. The early days were crazy. Everyone was kind of young, and rock and roll was still really popular amongst college-age kids back then. So everyone was really into it, and we would just play late at night, and places would be packed, and there'd be as many people outside of the venue as there would be inside, because a lot of them couldn't get in. So it was crazy. It's a great question. If I could only play one guitar for the rest of my career, that's a good question. I'm not saying this is my favorite guitar, because I'm not sure. It's a different answer, sort of. But I think if I could only play one guitar, and I think Kyle might agree with me on this, but I think it would have to be like a vintage Stratocaster. Just because I think it's the most versatile. It can do the most different things. I don't know, that's arguable, but today that's my answer. The ultimate amplifier, are you sort of asking the same question, like if I could only use one amp? Yeah. Probably a Super Reverb, Fender Super Reverb, like a mid-60s Fender Super Reverb, or a Fender, or like the right Blackface Twin, or a Pro Reverb or something like that.
The Mother Hips have had 4 bass players. The original bass player was Isaac Parsons, and then it was Paul Hoagland. He left in 2011, then Scott Tunis joined the band. In 2018, he was replaced by Brian Rashap, who is the current bass player.
Hips. So I joined the Mother Hips permanently in August of 2018. I have known about the Mother Hips since fall of 1993, which is when two of my dearest friends from growing up, David Rafalovich and Abby Kavanaugh, went to Chico State University. And they found this band. And when I was going to visit them, they said, "Oh, dude, you gotta check out this band. They're incredible and crazy, and I don't understand what they're doing, but you're gonna love it." So I went up there, and it turns out that it was a pretty infamous show. It was, I think, at the fairgrounds, and there were so many people in the audience that at one point this makeshift stage moved and like shifted, and everybody was like, "Oh, no, hang on. Don't touch the stage." So that was it. And I fell in love with the music the first time I heard it. The first show that I actually played in the Mother Hips was at the Powerhouse Brewing Company, which is in Folsom, on January 31st, 2014. And and Scott Tunis, who was their current bass player, he was sick and he couldn't make those shows. And so around 3:30 p.m. that day, my friend Tim Bloom, who plays guitar and sings in the band, called me, and we were having just a casual conversation for a minute. And he's like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh man, I wish I could go to the shows, but I have my boys this weekend, so I really can't." And he said, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, we don't have a bass player tonight." And I just said, "I'll be there." And so I had to figure out what I was going to do with my children, because it was their mother and I were divorced, and it was my weekend to have them. So I took them with me, and a friend, a real dear childhood friend, she and her family had the boys over for a sleepover, and I went to the show. And I got to tell you this, because you're connected to this, right? I couldn't have gotten through that show without having my friend Rick, who's your dad, standing next to me in the audience, taking some pictures, but really being there as my support. I couldn't do it. I was so nervous and so excited and just blah, And that was the first show, and I loved it. And then I did the next show with them as well. And that was it. I filled in and I did my duties, right? I have played in many other bands. One band that you might have heard of was this reggae band from Sonoma State, which is where I went to college, called Groundation. And I play in a band called Par Value Country Band, which is with Tim Bloom and John Hofer from the
What? That is still a band? It's still a band?
It's always still a band. We just gotta get a gig, dude. And I play with a lot of other people. As a bass player, you get hired to do gigs. And so this Wednesday, I'm going to go play some Grateful Dead music down in at the Paper Mill Saloon. So I do a lot of freelance work, you could call it. Well, live, when I play with the Mother Hips, I primarily use a Lakeland Bob Glob bass, and that is built off of a 1964 Fender Precision bass. And that one sits in the mix the best. But then if we do like an acoustic show, or if we're doing a mellow show, I use a Lakeland hollow body bass. And that's sort of like Tim's 335s that he plays. When we record, I use whatever bass I think sounds best for the recording. So that could be something I don't even have yet. I play that Lakeland P bass the most because a couple reasons. One, I feel like it sits in the mix, meaning the frequency of it sits really well in this band. And another reason, honestly, is that if you look at the history of Mother Hips bass players, Isaac, who was their first bass player and one of the basically founding members, he played a P bass, and I loved how that sounded. So I like to carry on that tradition. And then also Scott Tunis played a P bass in the Mother Hips for 6 years or something. So I feel like it's the best choice. What do you think?
I agree.
Ryder, my friend, why would you ask me such a difficult question? Does this have to be a bass that I currently own?
No.
Good answer. I would say pass. Next question. No, I would say maybe a vintage P bass. I was told this would be an easy interview when I signed up to do this, and that is just not the case. What amp? Oh my gosh. Maybe a vintage Ampeg B15, which is a really cool recording amp. Other than that, I absolutely love my Aguilar brown amp, my big stack.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right. Yeah. That thing, I just love it. I think it sounds so good. So that is an Aguilar DB751 head and a 410 cabinet, 115 cabinet.
Nice.
So maybe that one of those, that Ampeg B15 or the Aguilar. I would say the one thing that I would add to our conversation about the Mother Hips and playing in the band is that we are so thankful for our fans and the support our fans have given us. And really, Ryder, we're very incredibly thankful to people like you who we couldn't do this if it wasn't for fans and friends like you. And I hope you understand that.
I do.
Okay, good. You are an integral part of our organization and our career.
Ooh. So these are some road cases, and then over here is Greg and Rasha just chilling. Some more of the same road cases. Here's some speakers and some lights. Rashap's boat, an amp, Tim's boat, Hope is actually starting taking his drum set. Here is Rashap's pedalboard, and then Tim's pedalboard and DI, and then Tim's guitar amp, and then Greg's amp with his Telecaster, and then his pedalboard and DI. Danny's setup with like his Hammond B3, the Echoplex for Greg's boat with 2 more guitars, and that is the entire stage setup.
My role with the band is stage manager, and what that means is I build the stage, I set all the stuff up, I make sure everything is in the right place and how they like it. It took years to learn that stuff specifically for them and their taste and their wants. I make sure that they have they have everything that they need to do their show. And then I break it down and pack it up and make sure that everything is safe for the next time, because that stuff is very important, that gear. That, Ryder. And in this particular band, I start the setup with Hofer's kick drum, and that is what I base the entire setup off of. I go from there and I place Tim and Greg's amps, and then I place the keys, and on the other side I place Rashap's his setup, and then I build downstage from that.
So I became a member of the Mother Hips crew probably like back in Chico, like in the very early beginning days. When one of the highlights for sure was when they were signed to American Recordings, and when they opened for Johnny Cash, like I was there for that, right? And that was because I've been a huge Johnny Cash fan since I was a little kid, and so that whole scenario that they're opening, and it's at the Fillmore, right, which is a pretty famous club.
The Mother Hips have had 2 drummers, Mike Wolfchuk from 1991 to 1997, and John Hofer from 1997 until the present day.
I've been playing guitar since I was 11 years old. So that's a long time, and 39 years, and maybe a little longer than that, actually 10. And actually I started taking lessons when I was 10 years old. Then I broke my finger riding my bike, and I had to have a cast on my finger. And so I had to stop taking lessons. So it wasn't until I was 11 till I really started taking lessons. And then my first guitar was a guitar that my mom rented for me at Harbor Center Guitars. And it was a knockoff of a SG. You know what the SG is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I played it a lot. The Hypnic is a festival that the band that I'm in, called the Mother Hips, puts on every year. And it was started because we love the area of Big Sur on the coast of California. It's very beautiful. There's the ocean and lots of trees. And we thought it would be a really nice place to play music and have people gather. It's a nice place to camp. So all of those reasons. And our friend Britt, Britt Govia of Folk Yeah, he is a promoter, and he was able to help us get that started. And we've been doing it. What was this year? This was year 12. Right? Yeah. When I'm on tour, I miss my family very much. Before FaceTime and Zoom and all this fancy stuff we have now, I would just talk to them on the phone, and I didn't get to see them. But now with the capabilities, technological capabilities we have now, it makes it a lot easier. I use the Echoplex a lot. In fact, I can see two of them I'm down in my studio right now, Ryder, and I can see them over there. And I got another one as a backup. But I use a lot of effects. I used to not use any effects on my guitars, but now I use like a fuzz pedal. I use reverb. The phaser. I like the phaser a lot. The Phase 100. I use a slide on my guitar. You've seen me use that. That's a good question. My favorite pedal on my pedal board right now is probably my fuzz pedal. Yeah, I like to use the fuzz pedal. A favorite show that I've played, that's a good question. Let me think. One specific show. I mean, every time we play the Hypnic, the Hypnic is usually my favorite show of the year. Also, the holiday shows at the Great American Music Hall, those are pretty special. But there's been some other shows that we've played that have been pretty fun, like playing at the Fillmore in San Francisco. But, yeah.
And why?
Oh, and why? Let me stick with one to make that easier. So the Hypnic, we have already talked about that. Again, that's one where my family comes every year. So not every show do I get to bring my whole family, and they're with me the whole weekend. And there's so many friends there, like you and your parents and everybody else. So it's not only the show that I like so much, but it's the environment and the community. And it's in a beautiful area, as you very well know.
It totally is.
Yeah. Wow. Well, as you know, an amp, a guitar that I love to use is my Telecaster. Well, I like to use both of them. I like to use the 1998, which is the one I bought new in 1998. And then I like to use the 1963 reissue a lot. So both of those. But right now, I'm going to tell you a couple things. Right now, Ella has taken the 1998 to school because she's playing in jazz band. And so I let her use it one day, and she hasn't brought it back. So that one's kind of, I'm not going to say it's officially Ella's right now, but she's using it a lot. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret right now, if you don't mind. Can I?
Yeah.
I bought a new guitar today.
What?
A red 1965 ES335 semi-hollow body. It's so insane. It's so good.
Are you gonna bring it to the holiday shows?
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it the one behind you? No, on the other side.
Oh, no, but I'll show you this. No, it's not here. It's at my Larry Craig is the guy who, can you hear me?
Yeah.
He's the guy who fixes my guitars.
The Paul.
No, okay, so this guitar is very special. This is called Grandpa Joe's guitar. My grandpa, Joe Luzzi, built this guitar in 1949. And it looks like a Les Paul, right?
Right.
But it's not. It's his own design.
What about the amp? What about the one amp?
Right. I would say my Fat Jimmy 20. I love it. I mean, remember the Super's right here. But
yeah, I know.
But I think if I were to have one, it would be the Fat Jimmy 20. It does everything I need. It's plenty of loud. It's got the reverb. It's got the vibrato. Everything's happening with that.
Is there anything?
I love to play music. It's very important to me. I'm very grateful that I get to do it not only for my pleasure and for the pleasure of my friends and family, but I also get to do it as my livelihood. So that's pretty cool.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome, Ryder.
This year marks the 30th anniversary of the Mother Hips being together as a band.